Hello, welcome to This is Jane's Reviews, and this is my review for Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 5, Imposters. I will start with the standard spoiler warning, because I'm going to jump into spoilers immediately, so hopefully you have seen up to the end of this episode. I don't know why you would click on this video if you hadn't. So, another very strong episode. They just keep cranking them out, and I keep giving these episodes high ratings, and this one will probably also get a high rating. But there is a voice in the back of my mind just waiting for the House of Cards to come tumbling down, because if they do not pay this off, if they do not end this well, then that will retroactively affect all of the other episodes that came in the first half of the season. We are halfway through the season, by the way. And then I would lower all of those ratings, but we certainly have not reached that point. In fact, I feel like it's cranked it up another level with the conspiracy of the changeling. So it reminds me of a couple things. Well, there was a couple episodes of Deep Space Nine where there was a changeling on board and they had to figure out who it was. I think The Search might have been one of them. So it's like that cranked up to 11 because now you can't tell easily who the changelings are by the blood because they have apparently evolved, I guess, and now they have these organs or whatever. So that like cranks it up another level and makes it even more intense. And it also kind of reminds me of the first season Next Generation episode Conspiracy, but because of the fact that we have admirals apparently on high levels in Starfleet who have been infiltrated. So that's why it really reminded me of that episode. But instead of these little parasite things, these gross things, they're kind of disgusting. It's the changelings. I do wonder what about the other changelings? If this is a splinter faction, like what about Odo's faction of changelings? I know obviously they can't have Odo because, Rene Auberjonois is, passed away, but I'm wondering about that other faction of changelings, if they're going to factor into this, or they're just going to be like, no, Starfleet, you're on your own. But anyway, the point is, like, they've cranked it up another level, so now I think it is even better, and I think it is even more likely to not be bad, but I still think there's a way that they could have a lackluster ending and be disappointing and bring the whole House of Cards down. But I will say definitively that definitely we've reached the point where season 3 already blows season 2 out of the water. It cannot be as bad as season 2 already. It can certainly be not as good as I think it has been so far, but there's no way it'll be as bad as season 2. I think they've well past the point of no return with that, and that's a good thing. I still maintain, and I'll probably say this several times, that they should have skipped seasons 1 and 2 entirely and just did this because this is the good stuff. And they're bringing back characters, and so far they are not just shoehorning them in. And I will talk about Commander Ro Laren a little bit later, but I really love how they just kind of out of nowhere, was not expecting it. I thought Michelle Forbes was never doing Star Trek again. I love how they did not have her in the preseason trailer. That's really great. It would have ruined it if they had her in the trailer. So great to see her, and I will get to that as I get into the details a little bit later, but I love how they did that. So yeah, another very strong episode. So let me get into some of the details of it. Okay, so I actually want to start with Jack Crusher. Let's get that out of the way. So we get this Jack Crusher hallucination scene to open the show in place of the flashback. And I'm okay with this. I don't think we have to have a flashback every single episode. It seemed like that was going to be the standard format for the season, but I think it's okay to deviate from that. And if they want to get back to that later, that's fine too. But this worked really well for me. We had gotten hints of something weird happening with Jack before, but this is the first episode where they kind of really dive into it, and he keeps like having these like hallucinations of himself killing people, and then in the end he does kill 4 changelings, and when his mother asks him, how did you know they were changelings, he's like, I didn't. So he could have brutally murdered 4 Starfleet officers. So there's something going on here, and he keeps seeing the Last of Us vines. Like, it just made me think of The Last of Us, maybe because I just watched that show recently. It's fresh in my head. But, you know, like for those of you who've seen The Last of Us, the show or the video game, you know how they have like not the psilocybin, but like the fungus, like stuff that like, you know, takes over people's body and makes them into zombies. Like, that's what it looked like. It looks like the opening credits of Last of Us, actually. Ding, 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 ding. Very cool opening credit sequence, by the way. But anyways, I digress. So that's what it made me think of. Is like, why is he hallucinating the Last of Us zombie fungus vines, whatever you call that? But... So, I'm wondering what's happening. I'm wondering if there's like an Ash Tyler type situation going on here, where perhaps Jack was replaced by a changeling a while back, and then the changeling decided he really liked being Jack and now has forgotten that he's a changeling and thinks he's Jack, and there's something weird like that. Or what is it? I mean, obviously there's something special and unique about him that the changelings really want and need. So I kind of hope it's not the Ash Tyler thing, but if I would be okay with it if they presented it well, but I kind of hope it's something else. It's just the first thing that kind of came to my mind. But I would only hope that it's not that, just because they've already done it recently. So I don't know. We'll see we'll just see where they're going with this. But I'm really intrigued by this mystery. Like, what is going on? Why do the changelings want him? And why is he seeing the Last of Us vines? I just can't help but think of that. Okay. So we do get an answer to one of my previous questions of why they put a changeling on the Titan, you know, weeks ahead of time before Riker or Picard or Jack Crusher came on to the ship. And the answer is because they're just putting changelings everywhere. So there's changelings on every ship. So it's not, they weren't just waiting for Jack Crusher to show up. So that makes sense. I still do not understand, especially after this episode, why the changeling back in, I don't know, was it episode 2 or 3, had Jack and like tried to kill him and then just walked away and just left him laying there. I still don't understand that, because he seemed to be like, we must get Jack Crusher. Then why did he not take? He could have taken him right there. And it seems to me like the answer is so the show could happen. Like that seems to be the only answer. But I don't know. And why is no one else but me noticing this? I've never seen anyone else mention this. The changeling in that one episode had Jack Crusher and just left him laying there and walked away. So I still don't get that. Anyways, so I am really intrigued by this storyline, and I'm really curious to see where they're going. And I do think this is one area where it's possible we could get a disappointing resolution that could, you know, bring down my opinion of the previous episodes. So we'll just have to hold off and see what they're doing with it. All right, now we can get to the elephant in the room, the Rolaren in the room. Commander Rolaren coming back out of nowhere, and no way in hell was I expecting this in a million years. I am so glad, as I mentioned earlier, that they did not spoil this in the pre-season trailer. And the thing about it is, they didn't just throw her in there just to say, ooh, look at this. Remember Rolaren? Remember that episode, Preemptive Strike, when Picard and Rolaren left on bad terms? Remember that? I didn't feel that that's what they were doing here at all. Like, I felt like it worked on an emotional level and on a storytelling level. Then it fit. I freaking love the scene where she takes him into the holodeck, puts on the music so no one could hear, And the way that they are able to determine that each other are not changelings is by just releasing all of their emotional baggage and just that they've been holding on to for the past 30 years and just laying it all out there. And that's how they know, okay, well, you're not a changeling and I'm not a changeling. All right, now we can move forward. And I loved it, but they were both being very sincere. And so it made sense for this to happen within the context of the story. So to me, it did not feel like it was just kind of shoehorned. And still a little bit concerned that they're just shoehorning in Moriarty and lore, but we'll find out later in the season. But at least with Rowlaren, it wasn't just, ooh, look at this, it's Michelle Forbes, she's Rowlaren. No, this really, really worked. And I love it. I love it so much because I've always wanted Rowlaren to come back. I've always wanted to follow up to Preemptive Strike, and I just had resigned myself that we were never, ever getting that. It just completely blindsided me out of nowhere, and it works. It works for the story. One little tiny thing that bothers me, though, is that what I would say annoys me, honestly, is that they seem to be using Guinan's bar as kind of like that French pool hall in seasons 1 and 2 of Voyager. And I mean, and all the other places, the Tiki Bar and all the other different places the Voyager crew would go into. But it reminds me most of the French pool hall because it's a bar. But like they have to always go to the same holodeck program over and over again. So it's really giving me those French pool hall vibes, and I don't like that. But, you know, they gotta spend a lot of money on this season, so reusing the same set over and over again is probably a good money saver. So I don't begrudge them that. So whatever. Anyways, love the Rowlaren stuff. I kind of, was disappointed that she died immediately, but maybe Michelle Forbes only wanted to do one episode, and it raises the stakes by having, her die, but she has now passed on her chip, which was in her earring that she wasn't wearing, but she had it still. Pass that on to Picard. I hope she had a backup for that. Was she expecting to die? Because it's like she just gave Picard all of her information. I would assume she had another copy of it. But anyways, so I love that stuff. Okay, let's get into the Worf and Raffi of it all. I enjoyed this storyline, but I feel like it lost a little bit off of previous episodes because I feel like they're kind of just repeating the same beats. They're going to look for a different crime lord. So I am glad that at the end, Worf finally connects with Picard and Riker. So there'll no longer be a separate storyline. They may still be in two separate places, but we're not now connecting the dots there. Because if they had continued on just, let's go find this other crime lord. This one is an Andorian. I don't know. What other species from Star Trek could we have be a crime lord? It was right at the line of, okay, let's stop this now. So I'm glad we appear to be moving forward. But yeah, it was fine. It was fine. I'm just glad that we're moving forward with it. And did anyone else notice that when they showed the little scene of the Daystrom station? So this isn't the Daystrom Institute. This is the Daystrom station that appears to be in orbit. I don't know if it's Earth or if it's another planet that is orbiting. But so when they showed the interior of Daystrom Station, it is the same set that they showed in the trailer where we see Moriarty. So Moriarty apparently is at the Daystrom Station. I still don't know how they're going to explain how he comes out of that little cube that they put him in, and I think they're going to come up with some weak sauce explanation just to have him. I still think Moriarty and Lore are going to be shoehorned in. So, as good as I've liked this season, as much as I've liked the season, as good as I think it's been, I still feel like Moriarty is going to be shoehorned in. But we now know that he will be at the Daystrom station, which kind of does make sense. He's technology, whatever. But So I found that particularly interesting. And I just don't really have much to say about the details of the Worf and Raffi plot because, as I said, it's just kind of like I feel repetitive, and I'm glad that they're moving forward with it. I didn't dislike it; I still enjoyed it, but I'm glad that they're like now moving forward with that storyline and connecting the dots to the Picard and Riker storyline. One more last note before I jump into my shot in the dark, throwing a dart at the dartboard random rating that I do for these. I just did want to mention Shaw. I'm continuing to enjoy this character. I'm enjoying him even more now. I really enjoying his sarcastic wit. And just the way he was like, I reinstate you. Like, I enjoy this character. I didn't think that I would in the beginning, but I am. And he continues to, be a dick, but also ends up doing the right thing every time he's given the opportunity. So, and enjoying that character. All right, let me go ahead and wrap this up and get into my rating out of 10. So I've been throwing out all these 9s and 9.5s and 10s, and I'm going to give this one a 9 again. I just think they're still doing it. I think that the intensity has just been turned up another notch. We're getting Next Generation Season 1 episode conspiracy vibes, which is a good thing. Really, really excited and interested in what is happening. I still think the House of Cards could come crumbling down, but for now, this is still a 9. And you notice that I gave other episodes a 9.5 or a 10. Does that mean I think this episode isn't as good? Not necessarily. I don't know. I'm just throwing out high numbers. I really enjoyed them. I don't know. I will probably have to go back at the end of the season, rewatch the episodes, and re-rate them after having seen the entire season in context. But for now, this is a very strong 9 and another strong episode of Season 3 of Picard. All right, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week as I review episode 6. And please subscribe to my channel if you have not already. And I will see you really soon. Goodbye.